Michael Collins, astronaut. International repercussion fears after moon landing confession has been exposed. Michael Collins feared there would be international repercussions if NASA's Apollo 11 mission did not successfully put the first man on the moon and then return safely. This is what he admitted 50 years after the monumental event of the moon landing by the US astronauts. On July 21st, 1969, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong became the first two men to step foot on the moon surface, the lunar surface, with the latter jumping off the lunar lander Eagle, and he delivered his one small step message to the millions watching live back on Earth. The pair buried the US flag into the surface, signifying completing John F. Kennedy's goal of putting man on the moon by the end of the 60s and bringing an end to the space race, while Collins orbited alone in the command module for 21 hours. In an interview 50 years later, Mr. Collins shed light on some of the sobering realities of this mission, including the weight that the trio felt on their shoulders to beat the Soviet Union to the moon. This is what he told Newsweek in 2019. There was a lot of polarization in 1969, just as there is today. One difference was that President John F. Kennedy, who was very clear in his stated mandate to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth by the end of the decade, so there was no doubt about what we were going to do and when we were supposed to do it. And he says, now the how of it was up to us, and that's what we spent a decade working very hard to achieve the first lunar landing before the end of the decade. Collins went on to detail how he actually met some of the Russian cosmonauts before the Apollo 11, and they got along. He said, I don't know if JFK was a good leader or not. In many ways, he was wonderful for the space program, and I liked him, though I never met him. We were not friendly with the Soviet Union at the time. The Paris Air Show was neutral territory. He says, I expected perhaps a tinge of hostility from them, but I got none. We concentrated more on the fact that we had similar backgrounds rather than political differences. They flew aircraft, we flew aircraft. They lived in the sky, we lived in the sky. We concentrated more on those similarities. As people, I got along very well with Pavel Baliev. He seemed like someone I could go out and have a beer with on very friendly terms, and for a moment at least, we forgot the latent hostility. But in a more serious tone, Collins explained the mission failure was a stark reality that the Apollo astronauts were aware of. He said, we felt that the eyes of the world were upon us. It was something that we had every opportunity to mess up, to make a mistake. We were, well, at least I was, uptight in that regard. I was trying to do everything exactly as I had been trained to do. I knew that if I messed up somehow, there would be not only national, but international repercussions because of that. I think that Americans were very proud of the space program, the fact that we successfully landed on the moon. However, it was not the be-all and end-all of their existence. People's lives go on, and it happened and receded into the background, he says. This is on Express UK by Callum Hoare. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.